Okay, so as Sean is saying, that this was a project that we started about a year ago, and it's still in a very much a test bed. So I underscore this is a test bed that we're doing. But first I thought I'd say something about where I come from and how we started. So this project is part of a company that I call Embedded Nano. I'm also related to International Nano Laboratory called the International Nano Laboratory in Portugal. So I think I'd go to next. So Embedded Nano, we have one concept that we call extended R&D. And the idea is that very few companies can have nanotech capacity in-house. So what we do is that we set up collaboration or co-creation agreement with companies, so they can get access to nano laboratory and also scientists. And we also see ourselves as a creative agency. So that means that we are translating nanotechnology to the business world and vice versa. And I mean that it's sometimes really hard to know how you can use nanotechnology in a business context. So that's one role we have. And then, of course, our values is that we should be trustworthy as someone to collaborate with. And then I just want to say something that, I mean, I think we live in a new material age. I don't think I need to convince you, but I usually start by saying, can anyone answer what material can do and what it can be? It's an impossible question, of course. It can be absolutely everything. So this was the first thing I wrote about Embedded Nano. I forgot to say that apart from myself is someone called Lars Montelius, who is the general director for the International Nano Laboratory, and a business man in Sweden called Tor Landau. So we are three shareholders in this company. So this is how I started thinking about that, and what that means for me is that we can digitalize absolutely anything, and we can also transmit that information. And this is really the reason why I want to go into the world of ICO or blockchain and token and all that, because this is I mean, we have no problem to do a proof of concept, but going from there to something that works in a business context, that's quite hard. And I know there are a lot of institutions that struggle with these things. And partly we have a short supply of imagination, because it's hard to imagine. How can you see this in the scientific laboratories, and how can that make sense in a business world? So I'm going more and more towards, I mean, I'm also being very fascinated by the technology, but now I'm going to, if we can't get better to formulate the business logic, we can't make it happen. This is usually how it works when you start a company, and in the world of laboratories, you have an idea stage, and go from the idea stage to the co-founder stage. That can take many, many years, just that step. We have to do something about this. And we are working in the former previous slide, that in more conventional way to commercialize it. And this is one area that I'm working with, together with the International Nano Tech Laboratory and Pernod Ricard. Maybe you know about Absolut Vodka. And actually also is a big group in Sweden, in ICA. And that's in the area of food and beverage. I call it augmented food and augmented reality, because what it's really about when it comes to food, what we are working on now, is that we augment the sensation of something, how a material we call food interact with our senses. And one area now we started a company that we call salt sensation. So it's all about that we enhance the sensation of salt, but decrease the amount of salt you swallow. We can do it with many things. So what I'm working with now in my mind, and connected to the blockchain, and that is, but we have a physical object, anything, and we can digitalize it. And now we have blockchain and nano is supporting that. And what I think now is that we can digitalize a physical object. We can also connect it through digitalization to blockchain. But I'm also thinking that maybe we can embed new values in a physical object. And the way I'm thinking now is that, I mean, even if you talk about blockchain, you have to store the data somewhere. So it's completely dependent on 20 nanometers of magnetic field. But potentially we can store it anywhere if we talk about the cryptocurrencies. What would that mean? So this is an area, when it comes to digitalization, I'm trying to use that as a way of opening up a dialogue with people that are not inside the nanotech, because nanotechnology is part of digitalization, but very few people know about it. So there's many things we can do. I will not go into that right now. This is an area, biometrics. I mean, there's a lot of things been done, and I know that the bank sector are interested in these things. And I just give you an example there. This is a sensor developed that can pick up your heart's magnetic field. And I mean, we can know how we can do that, and every heart's magnetic field is unique. But how can we use it in the bank sector? Could we use it in cybersecurity? Because I mean, potentially, if I have a sensor here, let's say a mobile phone, and I move my mobile phone away from me, then it could be impossible to do a transaction. But we can't develop these things. We need to do it together with the businesses, because usually the scientific world don't have the contact to the end consumer. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about light. This was a project that we started with Absolute Vodka, but they wanted to have some kind of aesthetic effect. So instead of using pigment on the surface, we started playing around with light-emitting particles. This is an animation, but we know we can do this. We can guide light into a liquid and create pictures or some kind of effects inside the liquid. So here I brought some quantum dots. Have you heard about quantum dots? Anyone? This is nothing special for people in the scientific world, but the whole idea with this is that what happens. So these are small lamps, you can say, in a way. You can design them to send out any wavelength, more or less. But there's one thing that they use in the scientific context, but what happens if we use it, let's say, in the banking industry or connected to blockchain? What can we do then? And then, so that's we started. I call it cryptochrome, that we can hidden colors or cryptos that we can embed in anything. And what I'm imagining now is that if you shoot a light Morse code on a surface where you have light-emitting particle, the surface will respond a certain way. But then the question, what can we use that for? I think we can use it in the world of blockchain, but I don't know exactly for what. So this is what we do. We set up what we call ideation sessions. We do it with companies I work mainly in Stockholm. So I set up this to start this kind of dialogue with them. How could we use this? Because we need the input from the industry. So I just used the Space Odyssey as a kind of inspiration. That what if Stanley Kubrick knew about light-emitting particles? What would he come up with in his film? So to ICOs, what we are doing right now, we are talking to the Crypto Valley in Switzerland, and the idea is that the nanotechnology becomes some kind of add-on to an ICO, because most ICOs want to develop some form of technology. So if they do crowdfunding and they receive the money, then we can be part of that and we can develop a technology to them. And that's a way of us financing R&D project. And then, of course, we also have a stake in that. But this is the first step we are taking, to be a partner in an ICO. And what I'm going to show you now is a very complicated image, but it's the first time I show it for anyone. So, if I start in the green box here, my idea is that instead of building these companies, the scientists, as soon as they have a sensor that can send some form of relevant data, they send it to what we call a nano app store. So this I've been working with for some time. And this is a project, I'm not allowed to say exactly what it's all about, but we call it Homo cyberneticus. And you can imagine it's about we're picking data from our body. And then we have a system where we call it prosumers, that you and I, we will own the data. And then we are trying to build up a system for this, and then hopefully very soon we will do some form of ICO in this system. And then of course it is also, as you heard before here, about the token usage. I mean, you have to really know what are they supposed to do with the token. So this is my first list here of what we can do with these things. And the idea is then, of course, that if you're a scientist, you provide some data that is used, and you get a kickback through a token in that system. And that token, of course, you then can make an exchange for Bitcoin or Ethereum. So this is an invitation to collaborate on these things. We are not ready to do this, and we need to do it together with the fintech area. And so I'm really inviting for a dialogue with you here. So this is what I have right now when it comes to slides. So hope you have some questions to me. Ja.
Har du noen konkrete prosjekt med industrien
Det är som jag sa, saltet som vi jobbar med. Sen I forgot to say that we do this co-creation agreement with the industries, that they pay us a yearly fee, that we are looking into certain things. Together with them we define areas where we can go in depth to look into what nanotechnology do. So I have about 5 these kind of cooperation agreements with big companies. And one deals with these light-emitting particles, but it's more for aesthetic reasons that they are interested in.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.